Whether you're a world-class athlete or a podcaster like me, we all understand the importance of mental and physical well-being and proper recovery for top-notch performance. That's why I'm excited that Unified Healing is sponsoring this podcast. Unified Healing is a new and super innovative global network of wellness centers powered by Energy Enhancement System, or EE System. If you haven't heard of the EE System, you'll want to listen up. This technology promotes wellness, deep relaxation, purification, and rejuvenation. In hundreds of locations across the globe, access to a center is easy and affordable. Interested in experiencing the EE System technology for yourself? Go to unifiedhealing.com/bluewire to learn more and find a center near you. That's unifydhealing.com/bluewire. No material or testimonials on the Unified Healing website are intended to be viewed as medical advice or a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition or treatment and before undertaking a new healthcare regimen, including EE System.
The 1-2 pitch, ball lined to out, it's short, he throws, it's over! The Brewers have won the American League pennant! Milwaukee, you have a World Series!
Hit in the air, Yount makes a great catch, and Juan Nieves has thrown the first no-hitter in Milwaukee Brewer history!
Swings, and here it is! A base hit in the right center! He's done it! 3,000 for Robin.
And there's a drive in the left field. This is hit well. And it's gone! Ryan Braun! A two-run home run! The Brewers take the lead!
Morgan, a smash up the middle. Base hit to center. Here comes Gomez. Around third. A throw and the Brewers win. The Brewers are moving on a base hit by Nyjer Morgan. Here it is. Yelich sends one to right center and deep. Get up. Get up. Get out of here and gone for Yelich.
You're cruising for a Brewsing with me, Andrew Snyder.
And me, Adam McGee.
As we talk all things Milwaukee Brewers for the Eurostep Podcast Network and Blue Wire Podcast. Adam, as it would turn out, the Brewers are legally allowed to lose a series. I thought they had outlawed it. I thought there was an addendum to the last CBA that they had tacked on in spring training and had forgotten to tell all of us. And then, the Brewers just kept winning or splitting series. But no, they are allowed to lose a series. But they made it a happy flight as they head to St. Louis and into an off day by winning the finale of the series against the San Diego Padres. We'll get into that. Adam, welcome to the Zoom screen. It's, as always, great to see you as we hurtle towards inevitable death at some point in our lives.
Great to see you, Andrew. I'm glad you're as cheery as ever. I don't know what I would do if you weren't here to just, bring around joy, optimism, light into my Zoom sessions. It's sad Brewers lost the series. I mean, all good things must come to an end. They did avoid getting swept. Like, that was important, particularly with how the final game of the series played out. I guess this is kind of a real, that's baseball series in some ways, because, the Padres' best pitching performance, maybe their best overall game, did come in the game they lost in the series. And the Brewers didn't really get a whole lot going offensively either, but you know what? Sometimes you just get enough, and that's all it takes. But we'll get into all those details. I'm glad they weren't swept. I'm sad they lost the series. But still in a very good place, and with avoiding a sweep, I mean, they also ended what had kind of sneakily it was creeping up on us of a 3-game losing streak, and we don't want any of that. So getting back to winning ways before a Cardinals, Pirates, NL Central gauntlet, that's a positive.
Yeah, and like we always said last season, psychologically, if you're going to lose a series, somehow winning that last game just puts a little bit more pep in your step, and like you said, avoiding a snowball of a losing streak. We didn't talk about this in the look ahead last week, but I was actually prepared for this mentally going into the series. I know just Joe Musgrove has had a tough start to the season, but he's a very competent pitcher. Dylan Cease, their big trade acquisition towards the end of spring training, and then Michael King, the guy that they insisted be included in the Juan Soto deal from the Yankees, and he showed why today. I had not seen him, I don't think, over a full start, and Michael King looked excellent. Yeah, we'll get into the series and some of the things that went the other way for the Brewers. Some, iffy defense from time, some bad luck, and some batted ball, death by 1,000 cuts type of stuff, especially for Joe Ross. But first, we have to talk about some bad news. The Brewers have placed Christian Yelich on the IL and recalled Owen Miller. Yeah, so that's no good, and also another reason that you can add to this series not working out well and them scoring, 3 runs in game 1 and game 2 and only a single run in the final game of the series is they don't have Christian Yelich in the middle of that lineup with the way he had been performing thus far. The one thing that's a little bit, I don't want to say scary about this, but just leaves you a little uncertainty is with this lower back strain, I think is what they're calling it. He doesn't really have a sense for when he's going to be back. I guess this is an uncertain situation that he's just going to have to manage on a day-to-day basis. And when he feels right, he'll feel right, and then he'll be back into the lineup. But for now, the Brewers will try and get by without Christian Yelich. I think it was a 15-day IL, or was it 10, retroactive to April 13th, I believe.
10. So, I mean, he's well into that at this point. Like, we could see him back. Actually, sorry, you know what? It might be 15 retroactive. Essentially, there's like a week left, if not even a little bit less at this point. I'm not. Look, I'll pick up right in the last pot. I'm not concerned. Like, this is going to happen throughout the season. It only gets concerning if it's happening over and over and over again. By all accounts, Gelly has been feeling a little bit better as time has gone on. He certainly hasn't been feeling worse. So they definitely stepped in. Yelly stopped things himself at the right point to just, take every precaution. And that's all I'm viewing it as, unless, we get to a point where we're expecting him to come off the IL and all of a sudden an IL stint is being extended or he's not back. That's when you've got some problems. But for the moment, it's just, yeah, it's still no different to, I think, when we talked about it last time. I just feel like they're taking every precaution. Would have been nice to see him back for this series, but that also would have felt, I don't know, pretty quick for, like, it's not just Yelly and his age and having a history of back stuff. I mean, anyone who's ever done anything to their back, it's not generally something that, oh, my back's really sore, and then you go to sleep and you wake up and you're like, oh, it's perfect again. No problems. Like, it could take a little bit of time. It could be a little bit delicate and sensitive where you gotta be extra careful. If, say, by the time we're wrapping up the Pirates series, Christian Yelich is not, set to be back in the mix for the Brewers, at that point I would be concerned. But for the moment, I still think, look, this is how they have to manage it. And if he comes back and he picks up where he left off in terms of his play, it won't be a big deal at all. The Brewers should be better than 7 runs in a series, particularly when they were essentially averaging that a game for a long spell. And I do think there was going to be some regression. The Padres pitched very well overall in the series, and I think we'll get back to seeing the Brewers hit a lot better against the Cardinals.
Yeah, that Cardinals pitching staff, for me, Adam, would look like red meat to a hungry wolf. So let's hope it looks that way to the Brewers as well. Yeah, I finally found the quote from Todd Rosiak, Christian Yelich catching up with him after the game. I don't have an answer as far as the timeline, Yelich says. It's not really even locked up. I don't really know how to describe it. They're a little different every day. Just try to deal with it as best as possible and get back soon. And you know what, Adam? That sounds like a man in his early 30s describing a malady that he has to wake up with every day. I'm sure, Adam, knee trouble on your end. I've got some knee issues as well. So we can empathize, sympathize, both and neither with Christian Yelich. We feel your pain, buddy, and we don't have to swing a baseball bat that torques our body in a violent direction a few times a game. And in the
Yeah, I
cages.
mean, we're not dissimilar in age to Christian Yelich. We are very dissimilar when it comes to, health and fitness. So I won't make a like for a like there by any means. But yeah, look, we understand it, and yeah, we don't have to do a whole lot. So in some ways that might be the cause of our problems, in other ways we may just be saving ourselves from crumbling into thousands of tiny pieces.
Yes, we might. I think there was one more bit of news that I wanted to bring up, and it relates to maybe some games next week. But Jared Koenig, who we'll talk about in a bit, who pitched very well this week, was optioned back to Nashville. Tobias Myers up from AAA, a guy that we have been monitoring and wondering if he will get a chance to have a spot start here or there. I think in the event that Bryce Wilson did not turn in the great performance that he did today, Tobias Myers might have gotten into the game to give the Brewers some link there. Another guy who can be in that fireman multi-inning role. Maybe he gets a start here or there. We'll see how that shakes out for Myers. But Myers was a 6th-round pick by the Orioles in 2016, so he's had quite the journey, bouncing around a few different organizations, and then had been pitching well for Nashville. I think early in this season, some good video going around from the Brewers player development. In the aftermath as well, Vladimir Gutierrez has been designated for assignment to make room on the 40-man for Myers. So, yeah, we'll see if Gutierrez sticks around or if he ends up claimed by someone else.
I hope we get to see Myers, the Brewers. Like I hope this isn't just a case of someone who's going to be up and down. And I really would have thought, whatever way this game was going, we probably would have seen him in the game we've just finished watching, game 3 of the series. But look, could be interesting to see how things play out. Heading into a Freddie Peralta start next, it would seem like there's less need for him. But then, I don't know. As we will get into, the bullpen usage has been just a little wild. It's been all over the place in terms of what Pat Murphy has been seeing and choosing to do, and not all to like disastrous effect or anything, but it leaves certainly some question marks about how you go into your next series. A day off on this kind of long stretch is always going to be welcome, but I think no one is going to welcome it like the kind of core bullpen arms, because they are being worked.
Yes, they are. Trevor McGill return home soon. We'd love to see in St. Louis. So another thing to monitor there. I haven't seen any additional news about what his second rehab outing looked like. Going into this game, like we said, Joe Musgrove on the mound against Joe Ross. A game where Joe Ross really had it until he didn't, and a game that got off to a great start for the Brewers. In the first inning, Jackson Chourio leads off with a single, steals second, a William Contreras walk, and then after a Sal Frelick strikeout, Willie Adames singles to left to score Jackson Chourio. Rhys Hoskins would single after that, but then Bryce Trang grounds to a double play. Brewers leave the first inning up 1-0. A scoreless second for Joe Ross. Joe Musgrove on the mound for the Padres again in the second, and Jackson Chourio after a Joey Ortiz single, homers to make it 3-0. Blake Perkins had gotten thrown out at third on the Ortiz single, so easily could have been 4-0 there if not for that base running error, we'll call it, and just like absolutely insane throw from Fernando Tatis Jr. as he continues to establish himself as a fun to watch right fielder. Ross again in the third, 3 up, 3 down, so absolutely cooking at that point. And then we go to the top of the fourth, where it wouldn't quite completely unravel here, but the Padres would start to work their way back into the game. Hassan Kim's fielder's choice would score Jake Cronenworth to make it 3-1. Jackson Merrill's flyout ends the inning. So at that point, after the fourth inning, Brewers up 3-1. Joe Ross looking really good. Really efficient, I think, up to 97 on the gun as well. So things going really well. And then in the fifth, things would unravel. A Luis Campusano infield single gets things started. Then Tyler Wade singles to put runners on first and second. Xander Bogaerts singles to load the bases. So all of a sudden, 3-1, bases loaded, no outs. Fernando Tatis Jr. grounds out to second to score a run there, makes it 3-2. Then here's where things get hairy. A uncharacteristic pass ball from William Contreras, and things are all tied up. The very next batter is Jake Cronenworth. He reaches first on a catcher's interference. So uncharacteristically kind of wacky inning from Contreras behind the plate defensively there. Then Manny Machado reaches on an infield single. That scores Xander Bogaerts to make it 4-3. After a strikeout of Jerkson Profar, I think we get a pitch clock violation walk to Ha-Seong Kim. I can't remember if that's the play there. So the bases are loaded once again. Jackson Merrill follows with a single to center to score Cronenworth, and Machado makes it 6-3. And then a Luis Campusano single to left scores Ha-Seong Kim. Thiago Vieira comes in to get the last out of the inning. Brewers all of a sudden go from 3-1 up to down 7-3. Adam, I'm out of breath. Buzzard's luck, I think, is the term for what happened with Joe Ross in that inning.
Yeah, I think particularly tough because his previous outing was so good, and then he starts this one really well. And I don't know. I didn't see this game live. I was doing some condensed game work on this one, so I will defer to your judgment ultimately on it. I don't think, and this is one of the first times this season it's really been true of the Brewers infield, but I don't think they gave Joe Ross a whole lot of help in that inning, and he kind of ends up wearing it, and your game plan just falls apart. And really, I mean, the game is lost there and then because of a whole sequence of kind of wacky events after wacky events, and just things that are so uncharacteristic. Contreras the pass ball, catches interference. Terang with the kind of the backflip, completely missing Willie.
Yeah. I did forget to mention that, yeah.
Like, there are things that we don't see very often, and even we see Bryce try things like that and he pulls them off. So I don't know, am I right on that? Do you think Joe Ross is kind of wearing this in a way, but we should give him something of a pass for just how bad this ultimately got?
Yeah, I mean, you can listen to Murph's quotes, and I think he was approaching it that way as well. He says, infield hit, strikeout, walk, jam shot hit, blooper, catcher's interference in there after the strike. That is the rule. It's not a great rule. We're going to change it at some point, I'm sure. That's just the way the game goes. The cadence of that sentence is killing me, and I will share with you offline what it made me think of. So yeah, Murph right there is saying, like,
I mean, the way you recited it there made me think of someone very notable with a very notable cadence. So I think I possibly know where you're going. But we'll pick it up.
And Joe Ross quoted here saying, I feel like I threw the ball well, and for the most part, I was executing pitches. It was just a lot of soft contact in the right spot. There was one pitch I would like to throw again. The last pitch, I could have executed a better fastball when Luis Campusano hit a single. So yeah, I'm like, you never go on Twitter when things like this are happening. From some people, you see like acknowledging the weirdness of that inning and that it's just baseball, and other people are completely out on Joe Ross now. Like, could he have done something different to get himself out of that jam? Maybe, but a lot of it's just like, hey, go get him next time.
Football season may be over, but the action on the floor is heating up. Whether it's tournament season or the fight for the playoff home court, there's no shortage of high-stakes basketball moments this time of year. Get in on the excitement with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app, where you can turn your hoops knowledge into serious cash. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000 with NBA, NHL, and college basketball entries today on Prize Picks. Prize Picks even offers injury insurance so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for basketball games, this means if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't return in the second, that player projection won't count against you and the rest of your entry stays live. Download the app today and use the code BLUEWIRE for a first deposit match up to $100. That code is BLUEWIRE for a first deposit match of up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy.
Craig is usually a fan of water cooler talk, but it's draft season, and that's all anyone wants to talk about. The Athletic has loads of articles about this year's draft, but Greg doesn't have The Athletic, so now he's filling up his water bottle in the bathroom sink, which, to remind you, is the sink people use after they use the bathroom. Get The Athletic and get the info you need to speak draft fluently.
You've got a staff that this year is built of guys who are going to need help from the infield, and you've built a pretty elite infield defense, and you're going to win a lot of games as a result. And on a day where your infield defense doesn't hold up, or on a couple of days, and that's from, we want to go to maybe guys who we're thinking of as the back rotation, but this applies even to a Wade Miley type who, pitches to contact. If your infield are not doing their job, or if there's some weirdness going on there, Brewers are going to lose those games when that happens. And it's going to destroy what could be very, very tasty looking, ERAs for those pitchers going into some of those games over the year. And you'll just get big numbers. It's one of those things. It's going to happen over the course of the season anyway. But there are pitchers on this roster who are going to be really susceptible to it because they need the infield to do the work. And this is really, I think, the first time this season we could say collectively. I mean, sure, obviously we had Rhys Hoskins had his nightmare game, but there hasn't been a whole lot of kind of errors upon errors or just kind of misjudgments and then some bad luck with balls finding their way through gaps, all of that kind of stuff, just, compounding in that way. We haven't had a whole lot of that this year. And in that regard, then maybe, you know what? You're long overdue for some bad luck. No one ever likes to think about that, but that's possibly some of the reality there. And yeah, it's tough for Joe Ross. And I don't know, Andrew, people are online. How many people were actually watching how all of that was playing out, and how many people were either checking out a box score and seeing the pitcher's name and just going with that, or, the game might have been on the TV, but they're really looking at their phone and they're just looking up and they're just being like, this Joe Ross guy out there, I wouldn't put much stock in that.
Are you talking about Newmark again? Just kidding. We love you, buddy.
Newmark, he said that, not me, right? Let's just get that clear. He's not. Thing is, you know what? He's not listening, so I should really just go along with it.
I know. I keep throwing things out there to taunt him, and we never hear from him. So apparently, he's abandoned us as a listener. So it is what it is, Adam. Sometimes you die hero or live long enough to see yourself get into a podcast beef with the man that dips his pizza rolls in ranch dressing. Anyway, Joe Musgrove. There are not multiple Groves. There's just one Joe, and his last name is Musgrove. Settled in for 2 scoreless after that. Walked Contreras in the 5th. Willy Adames drew a walk as well. Nice patient approach from Willy Adames in this series. Drew a lot of walks, but then Rhys Hoskins double play eliminates a threat there. Thiago Vieira stays in the game and throws some scoreless relief in the 6th and the 7th. Brewers go down in order in Musgrove's last inning in the 6th. Brewers can't get anything scratched across in the bottom of the 7th. Same in the bottom of the 8th as they go 3 up, 3 down. And then the bottom of the 9th, a Jake Bauers fly out, Blake Perkins strikeout. Brewers would start to get a little bit of a rally going there as a broken bat. Oliver Dunn infield single puts him on. Jackson Chorio draws a walk. Then Robert Suarez comes on for San Diego to try and close things out. William Contreras infield single. It looks like maybe the Brewers are going to start to have some of the luck go on their side, but a Sal Frelick fly out ends the game. Brewers lose 7-3 in game 1. Shall we move to game 2 of this series, Adam? And immediately starting from a similarly wonky place with Wade Miley on the hill. I want to go a little inside baseball here, Adam. You myself and our other GSPN colleagues, we're in the midst of having kind of a sync call, a summit, a town hall, if you will, where we kind of talk through things, check in with each other. And that bled into the start of this game. And I can only imagine at the other side of the screen, you all thought I was just reacting so like harshly to every single idea that any of you would have because I was just watching Wade Miley fight for his life and literally get crushed by a baseball. Was I coming across that way, Adam?
No, no. It's an ongoing. It's not even a bit because you're not doing it as a bit. But we did talk about it, and we just seems to continue. We have these calls, and there's always a Brewers game on, which in season there's always a Brewers game on, and we'll be talking through serious business, and Andrew will just be in the chat being like, wait a minute, Wade Miley just got drilled in the ankle, or whatever it might be, 2-run homer for. So no, I didn't think that at all. I knew you were just entirely locked in on the Brewers game, and I don't even hold that against you because in theory, Andrew, you are doing your job in being locked in on the Brewers game, even if we are having a call.
I've got the article from Adam McCalvy. I'm glad to see him back this season. Obviously, he was back at AmFam for that opening series at home. So just wanted to shout him out. But he has a good lead here to describe the trials and tribulations Wade Miley was going through early in that game. He says, at 3:45 Central on Tuesday, Wade Miley had a guitar in his lap and was strumming along with a country song in the clubhouse. By 6:45 or so, 5 minutes after throwing his first pitch against the Padres, he was hurting. 107.7 mile per hour comebacker off the left kneecap will do that. He was angry. He was also trailing by 4 runs. Like, man's just going through it. So
The
Xander
real
Bogaerts
life comes at you fast kind of situation there, right?
It does. Like just all of the life comes at you fast. Xander Bogaerts starts the game with a single. Fernando Tatis follows that with a single. Jerkson Profar reaches on an error by first baseman Jake Bauers. That was the one where I think Miley was trying to glove flip it over to Bauers. Bauers was unable to hang on, so that loaded the bases. Then Machado does very rude things to Wade Miley, and it scores Xander Bogaerts. Ha-Seong Kim follows that with a homer to left, scoring himself, Tatis Jr. and Profar 4-0 after the first inning. It's not what you want, and we feel for you, Wade Miley. We hope this isn't something that lingers. He would go 3 innings, 4 hits, 4 runs, just 3 of them earned because of the error, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. So, yeah, we'll be looking for better things for Wade Miley in his next start, and hopefully no one tries to assault him with a baseball. In the first, with 2 outs, Jake Bauers comes through with the double to right to score Willy Adames. That would make it 4-1. I'll turn it over to you here in a minute because another thing while on this call talking about get-togethers and
don't
meetups,
worry. I've got, if it's a quote, is it a quote from a Brewer?
It is not. I was just going
to
to comment another thing that shocked us in the moment.
Apologies, the call we were having as opposed to
Yes.
this call that we're recording a podcast on. Sorry, I'm with you.
Correct. Abner Uribe in the game in the 4th inning. We had talked about last episode how going into the season we expected this bullpen to be a trial by fire fireman role, guys putting out fires in any inning, any situation, and then Abner
But also,
became the closer.
Literally, one of the final kind of talking points on our last episode was me being like, "Look, maybe he doesn't get the 9th next game. Maybe he's in the 7th again, and it'll be interesting." Then you're like, "Yeah, God, I didn't think of that. It would be interesting if he's in the 7th again." Enter Pat Murphy.
Abner Uribe in the game in the 4th inning to relieve Wade Miley, and it was a roller coaster ride. Inning and 2/3. He would be relieved by Hobie Milner, who got out of a jam. 3 hits, no runs, a walk, 2 strikeouts, 31 pitches. Yeah, I'll turn it over to you. Abner Uribe in the 4th inning. It's just like Murph was listening to the pod, and he's like, "What is the funniest possible situation I could bring Abner into to troll these guys?"
First things first, my thoughts are with Wade Miley and his impressively strong kneecap because I mean the fact that the X-rays or whatever variety of imaging they did on it all came back negative is astonishing because to get drilled in the kneecap with a ball at that speed, you know, I will speak for myself. You already mentioned my knees. My problems have historically been kneecap related. And yeah, I think my kneecap would just cease to exist. I think it would be in just millions of pieces and I would never walk again. So shout out to Wade Miley. Um, I mean, look, the Abner usage over the course of the series ultimately panned out in terms of you got 2 appearances and you went scoreless in both. I don't understand this though. Like, have you got anything for him getting the fourth for what Murph was thinking at that point?
Um, Not really. Maybe he thought he was putting him in to a lower stress situation. And it's like, oh, you're down 3, go out and throw, don't worry about it. But like, I, I, I
That's
just
kind of a
don't,
high
I
stress
don't get it.
situation still though, right? Because it's 4-1. It's like that's still a live ball game. If Abner went out and had an appearance like he's had lately, then it's game over. And it's like, gee, you can't even handle the fourth inning now. God,
I think it's just like I mean, Murph has shown us that he kind of is reactionary. Okay, this guy's not having a good stretch. Okay, let's move the lineup and shuffle it around like this. Oh, let's pitch this guy in this inning, and maybe after some of his struggles, he's just saying like, I'm just going to throw the guys I want to throw when I want to throw them, and that doesn't matter to the point in the game. It's next man up. I didn't love bringing him in the fourth here. I think it, like I said, specifically with him, just continuing to juggle his role around probably isn't the best thing. Um, I was bothered less by him coming in. Was it the 7th or the 8th today? I think it was the 8th, right? Today.
yes.
Mostly I enjoyed it because we got to see Abner Uribe's Gold Glove bid really just take even another rung higher up on the ladder. But
We'll get to that because that's the quote that I do have for us when we get to game
yeah,
three.
absolutely. Yeah, like if you're asking me like what do I make of this, I'm like I really don't know what's going on, to be honest with you. No.
I mean, that's kind of bullpen usage over game 2 and 3 is largely in a place like that for me. Um, like even Piamps coming in for the ninth in this game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like ultimately it just feels like Koenig is an exception of a guy who's been brought up that you're like, okay, we have some arms to burn through if we need them. And he maybe pitched well enough that it doesn't just become that in the bigger picture. But generally, when they brought those guys up, they're not using them at all, and he just keeps punting innings on, you know, the guys who he needs all season long. And that's part of my concern here. It's part of my concern where we've kind of really seen with everyone, and I think we're getting close to a place where things will normalize out, and we'll end up in a spot where you know what, they're not looking at like really elite ERAs early in the season, but we'll get to a place where it's like okay, Piams, Piguero, Abner, Hobie, like those class of guys are all in a pretty good spot, but they've all had moments where it's just really kind of gone a little bit off to start the season. And when that's happening, Murph is just kind of like he just keeps working them. Like it's like, oh, we're gonna just go through this. And I think someone I have some concern about this with too, and I think is becoming really important and is kind of a sneaky contender for one of the best Brewers pitchers in terms of consistency of performance so far this year is the man that Murph, even when he forgets, he will then circle back and correct himself and call him Rock, which of course is Brian Hudson. like he's pitching quite a lot too, and sometimes you're really stretching him out, and sometimes single inning. It
Peguero, another
just
guy who
Peguero has
it's been
worked
up
a
and down
lot.
and
He's
is
been
getting used a lot.
but he's been incredible really overall. And a few times then it just goes off, and you're like, yeah, I mean, of course it does. Like you're pushing him to breaking point, and he's been used in all kinds of situations. I don't know. It's tough. It just to me it feels like they're using fewer pitchers, which probably isn't true. It's just maybe they have to use more bullpen arms on a nightly basis than we're used to from previous seasons. So it just feels like everyone is being stretched thinner and thinner. But I do think over the course of the season that might be something that kind of rings true. So we'll get on to game 3, and again, someone is called up and not used on that day. I just don't know about that. It worked out well. Like I think overall the strategy was pretty solid. If you didn't have, I mean, for all that wasn't good here, the Brewers could have swept this series if it wasn't for one inning in game 1 and one inning in game 2. You know, if that's just tidier and in control, like the plans all kind of work out, and we're looking at Murph and he's like a mad scientist who just keeps on winning. But it's tough. He's being asked to do a lot. He's making some weird decisions, but I do have some concerns over if anything, that's where your starting pitching is going to bite you. It's just going to kill the bullpen arms over the course of the season.
That's exactly what it is. That's kind of the challenge with the shape of this rotation behind Freddie Peralta. Because what this is, would this have been today's game, 4 starts in a row of their starting pitcher not making it out of the 5th? Got DL Hall, or I guess, no, Sunday Colin Ray went 5 2/3, but so I guess, what is it, 4 out of 5? You had DL Hall's short start on Saturday, then what happened to Joe Ross on Monday, Wade Miley Tuesday, and then today they went with Bryce Wilson as an opener, and he did a damn good job, but they weren't going to stretch him out and try and get him deep into that game, so you need to use the bullpen today, and today the bullpen's excellent. But that is the challenge, is that if your starting pitchers are not going, I'm not even going to say deep into games, but like somewhat deep into games, there are going to be days like this, and we're going to be sitting here saying, well, this guy's gotten used 3 out of the last 4 days. What's going on? We've already seen it with JB Bukowskis. So will they have some sense of stability in the rotation when like Robert Gasser's healthy? He's a guy in AAA who will go 5 or 6 innings. And can he do that at the big league level, even if he's given up 4 earned or something like that? Maybe. Jacob Junis, another one of those swingman guys we would hope is back soon. So, yeah, it's going to be something that I think is a challenge all season to a degree, unless someone like DL Hall figures it out and becomes a guy that you can rely on. And Ross and Ray are as well factor into that. Colin Ray, again, we'll say just like how vital he is to this rotation with what he's turned himself into. I do want to shout out a guy that you mentioned because I glossed over this in game 1. Jared Koenig came in that game and provided some scoreless innings of work. Mr. 1000 also is what he became there. So I apologize for glossing over that.
And
earlier.
it's cool that like he was a Mr. 1000 and he came in and gave up 3 earned runs and like, you know, 1 out, and we never saw him again. It's like, yeah, cool. You're Mr. 1000 and you backed it up and showed, hey, maybe I could have some staying power over the course of the season, or he could be someone who is a recurring character in this Brewers season.
Yeah.
We're driven by the search for better. But when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. Leveraging over 140 million qualifications and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences, so the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Just go to Indeed.com/Blue Wire right now and support our show by saying that you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
All right, so where we left you was the Brewers down 4-1 with Admiral Uribe coming into the game in the fourth. Provides a scoreless fourth, got a foul out, and then allowed a single, and then induced a double play. Great. Dylan Cease continues to confound the Brewers from that point on. In the fifth, things got a little hairy for Abner. Fernando Tatis single, Jurickson Profar single, strikes out Manny Machado, walks Ha-Seong Kim after falling behind in the count. Intentionally, I think of it eventually. And then Luis Campusano strikes out swinging. Hobie Milner comes on, gets out of the inning. So wild ride for Abner, but was ultimately able to get out of things. A good relief work from Hobie, but the Brewers were not really able to ever get to Dylan Cease. 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, worked around 5 walks, and struck out 7. So their prized off-season acquisition looking pretty good there. In the 7th, the Brewers would allow a few more runs. Luis Campusano's single scored. Fernando Tatis Jr. makes it 5-1. Jackson Merrill, fielder's choice, makes it 6-1. In the 7th, the Brewers get some runs back. William Contreras singles to right, and then Joey Wiemer scores on an error by Fernando Tatis Jr. Sal Frelick reaches third, but they're unable to get any more after that. And then the Brewers get one tacked on in the 9th. William Contreras ground out, scores Wiemer again. Wiemer coming into this game. 1 for 1, a walk, single, 2 runs scored. So Victor Caratini special coming up later. And then Wandy Peralta eventually able to close things out for the Padres. Brewers lose 6-3. Pray for Wade Miley's kneecap.
Yeah. I think the Brewers need is, so early after Miley having problems to begin the year for him to have any other issues that further limit him or cause him to miss starts or anything like that. Did you see him? Did you notice him on the broadcast today, by the way?
I did not. I was shirking my job responsibilities, as you know, while taking meetings and then watching in my corner laptop screen. So I was soundless for today's game.
I wonder how he was moving today. Gotta think he's hobbling around a bit the day after that one.
I watched a really bad movie the other day, Adam Night Swim, and starring Wyatt Russell, who I love, plays a former Brewers third baseman who now has an illness and is unable to get around. So he's using a cane in much of the early portions of that movie. And I wonder if Wade Miley was just kind of like hobbling around with a baseball bat. That's something I would love to know. If I ever require use of a cane, I'm getting it to look like a baseball bat, which I'm sure you can understand.
I did listen. I would expect absolutely nothing less from you.
All right. Brewers Padres finale, 12:10 Central start. Getaway day. Brewers have an off day today, as you're listening to this, probably on Thursday. Michael King facing off against Bryce Wilson. The story of the early part of this game was Michael King. Excellent outing for him, confounding Brewers with his sweeper. Jackson Chorio had a particularly tough day, 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts. And this game was scoreless until the 8th inning. Bryce Terang reached via single in the 8th. Stole second base, and then Blake Perkins, ground ball single through the left side, would score him, give the Brewers a 1-0 lead. Michael King, for his part, gets the loss. Baseball is cruel. 7 2/3 innings pitched, 2 hits, the 1 run on the Perkins single, a pair of walks, 10 strikeouts, 109 pitches. I can see, again, I'll say, why the Padres insisted on including him in this Soto deal, and I guess that was the big sticking point. I think he mostly pitched in relief for the Yankees leading up to the trade, but he looks great as a starter. Like we said earlier, Bryce Wilson serving in the opener role for the Brewers goes 3 2/3, 2 hits, no runs, a walk, and 2 strikeouts. Cutter was looking good early in that outing, and especially in that first inning. Lowered his ERA to 3.65 on the season after a bumpy start. So nice to see Bryce give the Brewers valuable innings when they needed it. Brian Hudson as well, who would come on in relief of Bryce, get out of a jam to record his first out, and then end up going 2 more full innings, I think it was. No runs, no hits, just a walk, no strikeouts. A .96 ERA on the season for Brian Hudson. You shouted him out earlier, but just another early season triumph for the Brewers pitching lab and just scouting in the front office and identifying him as someone that they could work with to turn into a valuable reliever. Scoreless inning
Big
from
thing
Elvis.
with him too. Sorry, but even in terms of his profiling about him, like, and we're talking about what the bullpen has, what the bullpen's missing. It's missing Trevor McGill, and we'll really welcome Trevor McGill back. But I feel like Hudson has been even more important with Trevor McGill missing for the time he has following his, his crazy incident and the concussion that he received with it.
Yeah, and that's a really good thing to shout out because uh, I do wonder what the shape of this bullpen will take when he is available. Will they settle more into guys having specific roles? Because I could see them doing that, or maybe continue doing what they're doing. But Brian Hudson's clearly a guy that you can put into any game situation and feel comfortable with him getting the job done, and that was definitely true today. Uh, Elvis Peguero would fire a scoreless inning to bounce back from his tough outing the night before. In the eighth, Abner Uribe allows a leadoff triple to Michael Batten, I think is his name. Gets Kyle Higashioka to pop up, strikes out Xander Bogaerts, and then Fernando Tatis hits a little ground ball in between third base and the pitcher's mound. Abner Uribe runs it down, bare hand throw to first base to get the out, and then just absolute elation in his reaction. And great play by Abner. I'll turn it over to you for the quote.
Yeah, as a friend of the pod, Kurt Hogue asked him after the game, you said you want to be a cowboy. What about being a shortstop? And in English, I'll note, in English, Abner kind of thinks about it, kind of chuckles quietly to himself and says, shortstop, cowboy, doesn't matter. And Abner just remains kind of sneakily the best quote in the Brewers clubhouse. Just the coolest guy. I remain all in on Abner. We definitely need him to tighten some stuff up. He will benefit, I think, more than anyone with the Brewers rotation and the bullpen off the back of that, finding some sort of rhythm or stability. I mean, we should also, they got the extra day in between that stopped it from being whatever, 13 straight days with games. That hasn't necessarily helped either in all of this, in terms of just there's been an element of survival in how the bullpen has been constructed from night to night. But yeah, Abner, and I don't want to shout Abner on this because Thiago Vieira showcased this earlier in the series too, much to the bewilderment of Manny Machado. But I do love a reliever who's just gonna, they do their job and they're gonna be pumped up about it. They're gonna celebrate. They're gonna get the crowd into it. They're gonna get their teammates into it. I really like seeing. I know all of these guys have a level of personal pride in going out there, getting their outs, and doing what they need for their team in a given situation. And Abner is certainly, he is kind of right at the forefront of that. And it's even more fun when he does it after, some drama, which there's always. He's just got flair, Andrew. That's really what it is. There's just flair to everything he does, a little bit of panache. It's never going to be dull. It's also never going to be easy. But God, when he pulls it off, it's exciting.
Yes, it is. And I'll go back to Blake Perkins's game-winning single that scored Terang. Forgot to mention at first, but in the moment, I thought he was going to be thrown out. A slightly better throw probably gets Terang at the plate, and that ball would end up going careening elsewhere, and Perkins would reach second. So dramatic moment at that point. Out of the hand, looked pretty good.
He was just fast enough to create the panic that I think stops a kind of smooth and seamless connection on that as well. It's just, it's one of those, it's live ball, the game is on the line, it's been really low scoring and it's tense. And I think you create that kind of havoc, and as the offense, you probably come away with the result you want in a game like this one proves to be. But yeah, it did look like he could have been got.
Speed thrills. Yoel Payamps comes on in the ninth, nails down the save, a Profar ground out, Machado ground out, and then Hassan Kim lands out to center. Brewers win 1-0, salvage the third and final game of this series to move to 11-6 on the season. Their NL Central counterparts elsewhere in the world, Pirates have dropped a few games this week. Cubs lost Tuesday night and are tied 2-2 with Adams Snakes in the bottom of the fifth today. So we'll see how that shakes out. Cubs should have lost another game in this series, but they got some good fortune there. We want bad things for them. You want to hand out some beers, Adam?
We do. I'm trying to look for the stat because we want bad things for the Cubs. The Cubs, in fact, have had bad things, which was before that loss on Tuesday night. This comes from Opta Stats, and I will begrudgingly shout out Logan, who shared this in the Discord. In the last 100 years, 2 MLB teams have had a game with at least 4 doubles, 3 triples, 2 innings with 4+ runs, 1 grand slam. The 1927 Yankees did it and won 21-1 on July 4th. True Patriots, Andrew. The Cubs did it last night and lost. Once again, 4 doubles, 3 triples, 2 innings with 4+ runs and a grand slam and a loss. Craig Cancel, you're doing some beautiful, beautiful stuff.
That's a sick stat. I love that stat. I want to make love to that stat, Adam. I love it so much.
Let's get more stats like that.
Handing out some beers for the series. Jared Koenig, Mr. 1000, great work. Abner Uribe, it was looking dicey for a moment, Adam, but he salvaged it.
It always looks dicey. He doesn't always salvage it, but it always looks dicey.
Bryce Wilson for his great work as an opener. Yoel Payamps, Thiago Vieira, Hobie Milner, Brian Hudson. Joey Weimer gets the Victor Caratini Memorial Beer. Shout out, Vic. I don't know how he's doing in Houston. I know they've been struggling, but we miss you. William Contreras gets a beer. Willie Adames, like we said, the patience in this series, and Sal Frelick gets a beer. Leaderboard through 17 games. William Contreras leads the way with 7. Christian Yelich, Bryce Terang, Willie Adames with 5. Jackson Chorio, Joey Ortiz, Admiral Uribe, Yoel Payamps, and Brian Hudson with 4. Elvis Peguero, Reese Hoskins, Colin Ray, Sal Frelick with 3. Oliver Dunn, Joe Ross, Blake Perkins, Freddie Peralta, Bryce Wilson, Thiago Vieira, Hobie Milner with 2. Trevor McGill, Jake Bowers, Gary Sanchez, JP Bukowskis, Jared Koenig, and Joey Weimer each have 1. This is through 17 games. Brewers 11-6, like we said. And yeah, they're going to be blips on the radar. It's important how you come out of them and that you don't let them spiral. And now we go into a series against a division rival with Freddie Peralta on the mound in the series opener. So this is why we watch, Adam. This is why we come to the ballpark and why we fire up our MLB.TV subscriptions, because we're 162 guys and we just go out there and we wear it with them.
864 OPS and 22 ABs for Victor Caratini with the Astros. So Vic's doing some stuff. Throwing in some doubles. Yeah. Good for Vic.
You know what?
I appreciate him.
He's America's backup catcher.
He really is. He is the gold standard of backup catching. So wish only good things for Victor Caratini.
On the way to St. Louis.
Yeah, we look ahead to the another team. I mean, if there's to be another team we'd want on the end of some of those stats, like the one I read out just a couple of minutes ago, Cardinals would be right up there.
I think they've been playing Oakland this week, so it's like Oakland's been feistier than folks expected. But I still would consider it a free space on a bingo card. as fun as it is to watch Mason Miller throw out of the bullpen. Friday, April 19th, 7:15 Central start. Freddie Peralta on the mound against Kyle Gibson. Friday, 4:20, 1:15 Central start. Happy holidays to all that celebrate. DL Hall on the mound against Miles Michaelis. Sunday's finale, 1:15 Central start. Colin Ray against Sonny Gray. Then the Brewers will head to Pittsburgh before 4-4 before welcoming the Yankees to AmFam for the last weekend in April. But yeah, 11-6. Dropped the first 2 games of the series in I'll say it again, wonky fashion. It's gonna be my word of the day. But salvage the series with a dramatic win that saw them finally overcome what Michael King was doing to them. They were no hit through, was it 5 or 6 innings? When did Willie get his hit?
Oh, it was later than that. Beginning of the 7th is what my gut says. He definitely went through 6.
I think Willie broke it up top 7. I have the play-by-play up here. It's like I forgot about Mr. 1000. I glossed over Michael King no hitting the Brewers because
it's a great thing to be able to gloss over Michael King almost no hitting the Brewers because it looked like it could have been a very different story.
Abner Uribe and Blake Perkins and Bryce Terang and his speed changed the narrative. So thanks to those guys.
I just like on that note, before we finish up, spare a thought for Michael King. 7 2/3 innings, 10 Ks, allows 2 hits, 2 walks, throws 109 pitches, walks away with the loss. That is rough. That is really, really rough. So, hey, something to build on for him. All right, Andrew. That does it for us. For everyone listening, to make sure you never miss an episode of Cruising for a Brewsing, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. That's Cruising for a Brewsing. You should also check out the rest of the GSPN shows. We've got the Eurostep Podcast Network, home to all things Milwaukee Bucks. We're ramping up for the playoffs. It might be a debt march of sorts, but we're getting ready for it. On that Eurostep Podcast Network feed, you get 2 books, pods, all in one place. The Eurostep with Time with Jerome Caddy and Winning 6, myself and Jordan Tresky. Jordan and I recorded, posted yesterday a mailbag episode looking ahead to the playoffs. Enclosed within, Andrew, our official predictions for a Giannis healthy early return and a Giannis unhealthy doesn't return kind of scenarios. So if that intrigues you, you could check it out.
I really liked, my favorite part was you just Dikembe Mutomboing Ty's request that he join the Brewers beat. Now he's coming for our chair, Adam, and we won't let him have it.
No, he hasn't done the work. We've put in years of work to get in these seats, right? And just like that, a few losses, Doc Rivers in charge, and he's like, hey, can I swap? Can I come over there? No, absolutely not.
Our stripes.
He's welcome to join. He's welcome to, drop in with us. But can he have the seat? Can there be a swap? No, absolutely not.
Best 50-game start followed by having to watch Matt Bush throw late game not safe situations, but high stress situations. Those were our stripes.
What about Jesse Winker? I know we haven't actually talked about this, but Jesse Winker, just being an absolute crusher this year, he would have fit in so well on Murph Smashers.
People are saying the bat speed looks back, so maybe they were just a year early on the injury recovery. It's tough. I'm happy for him. People have been saying a lot of mean things. I'm happy for Jesse Winker.
If you want Packers talk, NFL draft almost here. Talking to Tundra with Jordan Tresky and Numac have you covered. And for movies and pop culture, and for more from Andrew and I, check out Make Time for This. That's it. Until next time, thanks again to all of you for listening. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Adam and Abner.
Plato's Closet in West Ashley and North Charleston are springing up cash. Just sell us your gently used warm weather styles like tees, shorts, sandals, and more. We're paying cash on the spot for gently used spring styles for guys and girls. Support sustainable fashion. This spring, do your thing and recycle the spring-inspired clothes, shoes, and accessories that are just hanging in your closet for cash on the spot. Let your spring clothes bloom into cash at Plato's Closet. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.